Hello and welcome to our webinar today. We're so excited that you are joining us. As we get settled, we're excited to share with you some very recent updates to the 26-27 FAFSA form, as well as some communication that we have seen from the Department of Education. So welcome. Thank you for joining us for this second part of a three-part series of mini webinars on recent FAFSA updates. So let's get started. We've got some housekeeping as you join us. During this presentation, please feel free to utilize the chat box that will go directly to the presenters. If you've got questions at any point on any of the content, please use that Q&A box that you see at the bottom. We will be monitoring the questions and either answering those live throughout the presentation or holding those for the end based off of that question type. So feel free to use those two places to communicate with the presenters and make sure that we get the information that you're seeking covered today. So speaking of presenters, today we will be having Charlie Harrington walk through the form changes. He is the Assistant Director of Outreach at our North Mississippi Center in South Haven. And my name is Kirsten Dufour. I am the Director of External Training and Partnerships here at Get to College. So we are so excited to be able to have you all join us today. All right, looks like I'm going to do an audio check.
I can hear you okay, Kirsten.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we might be having some audio issues for some people, but we're going to move forward. Hopefully, we can get that worked out. So today's agenda includes welcome introductions here. We're glad you're joining us. We have some reminders just to make sure that we understand some of the forum changes that happened when it opened. We're going to talk about some differences that occurred and updates from December, this past December from federal student aid. And then Charlie's going to walk through the actual pictures of where the form looks different if you log into the 26-27 FAFSA today. And we've got some question and answers and wrap up. So we appreciate you joining us. And as you get settled, we're going to go through what is new on the 26-27 FAFSA form. But before we get started, let's talk about, hey, there is something that you need to remember that changed in October. So in October, the process for inviting contributors changed. So when the FAFSA fully opened this year, when they released the 26-27 FAFSA, which is a reminder, is what's currently the newest FAFSA that's available, the process to invite a contributor shifted into only requiring an email address. And so prior to this year's FAFSA, there was information needed for a student to invite their contributor, either a parent or step parent, whoever that is, that required much more than just an email. This year, it's only an email address. We ask that it is ideally the parent's email address, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It can be just an email address. And you'll see what this looks like shortly. And so it sends an email that provides a unique code to that individual. But it's not only in the email that's sent, it's also on the invite screen. So on the actual screen itself, it will show you what that unique code is. And it's also on the submission screen as well. So there's ample places. So now that individual that's a contributor just takes that unique code when they log into studentaid.gov with their studentaid.gov account, they'll have the option to contribute to a student's FAFSA and they put that unique code in, and then that will be what they are able to link to the student's FAFSA. So no longer is a student trying to have to remember parents, contact information, social, date of birth. It's just an email with that unique ID code that is to the contributor, and then they will put that in, linking the two together. So we wanted to remind you that was a change that occurred in fall this year, September, October, for the opening of the form. Now, let's talk about what some changes that occurred from federal student aid. They set some communication updates in December of 2025 we wanted to make sure you're aware of. in case you have students that are asking you questions or say, hey, I got this email, we wanted you to be knowledgeable what this is. So, Federal Student Aid and the Department of Education completed an email campaign in December to nearly 800,000 individuals who are new FAFSA applicants who listed only one college on their application. The communication around this encouraged them to add more colleges to expand their option. And then in that email, it explained how do you add more colleges. The thinking from the Department of Education was maybe that wasn't a mistake, or ensuring students have options when thinking about, those financial aid offers coming in and things like that. So just know that if students are saying, hey, I got this email about only one college listed, did I do something wrong? That is not the case. It was just a way that Department of Education wanted to ensure that students had options, and that's how they went about communicating that out. So the second bullet point is first-time filers are now notified after the FAFSA is submitted if any of the selected schools that they added are considered low earning colleges. So that is identified as the median earning is below a state's high school graduate level of income. And where that data comes from is the College Scorecard data, which is a federal resource that shows colleges' data information to students. There are about 1,200 of the 5,800 colleges that are in the College Scorecard that are identified as those low earning colleges. This is also something that was then retroactively added to the 25-26 FAFSA. So just know if a student is going back and doing that one, they're also going to see this change as well.
Yeah, another piece here is that they added this data to an Excel spreadsheet so that you can download that externally, which I've used a few times. It's been very helpful. And one thing that I love about it is that it shows median earnings. It also shows, and it adjusts for inflation each year, as well as comparing it to a high school diploma. So you can see what your earnings might be if you attend, a for-profit school versus a community college or university, and what that looks like in comparison to just a college, a high school diploma. So I think that's really neat.
Yes, that's super helpful when counseling with students and having those kind of fit match conversations. Thank you, Charlie. All right, so I wanted to show you just so that you can visually see what this net lower earnings indicator looks like. On the left side, this is showing the student on that after submission page that, hey, some of your schools show low earnings. And then once they click on the see these schools, you can see the right graphic shows that information. The information, as Charlie mentioned, about those graduate earnings, low earning, and comparing of the other schools. So just wanted to show you all what that visually looks like on the submission.
All right, so we are going to actually walk through the current form with the FAFSA. One thing that I think Federal Student Aid has done a great job of is just improving the quality of life of the FAFSA. Some of these have been smaller changes that, in my opinion, have had big impacts. One thing that we're not going to really discuss in full, when you create an FSA ID now, it continues to keep you logged in. And that is a major change, in my opinion, that I love. So once you create your ID, it's going to still send you your codes, but it's going to keep you logged in. So you don't have to re-log in, and it saves a lot of time. So I love that. That's one great quality of life change. But with the form itself, so right off the jump, at the very beginning, so you may have remembered they had a list of videos. Those videos have been removed. So you don't have to click through each of those videos now. I know that for some people, if you've done several FAFSAs, maybe you watch those videos once or twice, maybe you skip them every single time, but now you don't have to click through those anymore. So those have been removed. They jump straight into the student's information. So this is going to reflect exactly what's on the student aid account. If you notice, so if a student has an old account that they created a couple years ago, something like that, you can see like mailing address is going to reflect what's on their account. I see this sometimes with parent accounts. It's an outdated address. you can go back into their FSA ID and change it, and it will reflect automatically here. So just know that anything that you have on your ID is going to be exactly what's going to pull in or import right here. It moves then, of course, into our state of residency and where everybody wants to say, well, I guess it's my birthday because I've lived here my whole life. So you've got when did you become a Mississippi resident? I'll also point out one other thing is it does specify you can also just state when you moved to Mississippi. So if you have not officially become a resident of the state of Mississippi, it's the date that you moved to Mississippi. So that can be helpful for some students and families as well. Personal circumstances. So we go into those questions. So we know that, of course, marital status is going to be the first one that they go through. So we'll select that. Going straight into year of college and if they have their bachelor's degree or not. We know that these questions are trying to help determine if a student is independent or dependent. When it comes to whether or not they have a bachelor's degree, that's going to determine whether or not they're working on their master's or doctoral degree. And then here are dependent, independent questions, the rest of them here. So if you're not familiar with this list, you can browse that here. This is going to be on YouTube, so you're free to pause it and read through this list if you need it. But just remember, this is determining if a student needs to put a contributor on their FAFSA or not. So if they select none of the above to this question, most likely they will be independent. I mean, they will be dependent and they will need to put a contributor on their FAFSA. Next up, the very last is the homelessness status. So yes or no here. Again, if they select no, we're still going to be putting that contributor's information. And then this is if they have any unusual circumstances. So if there are extenuating circumstances, they would mark yes. One thing that I love is that it is defaulting to no. So when they initially put this question on the FAFSA, there was a little bit of confusion of which one to select sometimes for students. And if you select yes, it immediately goes to the college and they end up with a professional judgment. So it can just be a little bit of a headache for students. So the fact that it defaults no, which is what a lot of students will be selecting, that's really, really helpful. So I'm glad that it is currently defaulting to no for that reason. Another one here, this one was a big one when they first introduced it. So this is to only apply for unsubsidized loans. So basically, are your parents refusing to provide information on the FAFSA? Sometimes students will say, well, my parents have talked to me and they're asking me to, do college on my own, and they're not going to give me any money, and I'm just taking care of it myself. So they want to kind of automatically say, yeah, my parents are refusing. I'm just going to say yes. And this is again where it's going to send it straight to the college, straight to a professional judgment, and they're going to have to kind of go through a case study with the college's financial aid office. And so it just becomes a little bit more lengthier process for the student. It's a little bit less of a headache if they can go ahead and just say no. And so again, we want to try to put contributor information if at all possible. Another quality of life update that I like is that once you got to this point, it would start ask you to invite your contributor. So it would, like Kirsten said, it would ask for their contact information, their name, their birthday, their social security number. It's now been moved to the end. So you'll see the check marks along the top of the screen. Contributor invite is towards the end of the student section. And I really like that as well. So you're not stopping and, well, now I'm putting my parents' info. And then it asks them follow-up questions like, is that about me or about my parent? All of that is now in one full section for the student. So it's continuous. And I think that is a little bit easier and more digestible for our students. So again, we want to try to keep this one no if we can. It's going to default to no, which I prefer as well. Continuing with the student demographic questions, the way that these have been presented have been adjusted slightly. So we do have student sex first, so we've got male or female there. And then used to, we had two follow-up questions here. It's been reduced to one question, and you just have the student's race and or ethnicity listed here. So students will select that. Now, it does also give them a note, which sometimes people skip these notes, but these are just research purposes. These questions are for research purposes. So if they're optional, if they don't want to include this information, they're not required to. But just know that that is there for them to include. Student citizenship status, so that is still gonna, be here. Of course, we want to go with U.S. citizen for most students. And then parent education status, nothing's really changed here. Um, and then if the parent was killed in the line of duty, yes or no question there. So again, you'll see a lot of the FAFSAs very similar. There's not a whole lot of changes here. The high school diploma is where we're going to select that. If they're homeschooled, you'll have that option, of course. And then if they got their GED, you'll have your state recognized GED there, or hopefully not none of the above. And then so we're not going to get a chance to really see it here, but the way that you type in the high school has been adjusted slightly, and I think it's a little bit easier to find your high school, and it's a little bit quicker as well. So another slight small change. Again, like I said, quality of life is kind of the name of the game right now. So going into student financials, one piece that I'll say for student and for contributor that has been slightly confusing, I think, is just the import of financial information. Because students and families are not seeing the data import, they're not seeing their tax information automatically pull in. Sometimes they think, well, I never typed anything in. I never typed any numbers in. The FAFSA was really fast. What happened? Where is all of my data? It's automatically happening in the background. And so sometimes they're done with their section of the FAFSA before they really even know it. They get to the end and they're like, oh, that was it. Yeah, the FAFSA has been streamlined. It's going faster than ever than people are used to. So just know that if it's able to import, it will do it and it's in the background. And so it's fast and it's doing a really good job of that. And it is importing for most people. So back to again, student filing status. If the student filed taxes, I'll also note one thing here. Usually, if they have taxes, it's going to pull them. So if you get this question and it's asking you if the student filed, you want to verify, but a lot of times if they have them, they're going to import them. So if a student is kind of questioning, like, well, I worked over the summer, I'm not sure if I did or not. If it's asking you this, a lot of times they probably did not. But there are some instances where it might not pull their data and you still will select yes and continue with the questions. This question, we don't see a lot of yeses here, but did they earn any income from a foreign country? Most high school students in the United States do not. So then we go into filing status. So if they did file taxes, they'll answer their filing status question. How did they file? And then you'll see all of their tax information. So income earned from work, taxes and interest income, untaxed portions of IRA distributions. And remember that it does give you the line items here. So you'll know exactly which lines to look at for those tax information. The biggest is, of course, adjusted gross income. We're looking at line 11. So committing that to memory to make sure you know exactly where to look for that adjusted gross income every time. But yeah, gives you every single line item that you need. And you'll see all of this will be imported for you usually. But if you do have to manually input any of this data, you've got each line item there for you to help you out. Student assets. So it is going to ask, if you start on the student side, it will ask for assets every single time. So cash, savings, and checking accounts is the first. It can be an estimate and we don't include any investments. You'll see on the second tab, you have investments in real estate. Remember, with investments in real estate, we do not include the student's home and we do not include any retirement. That goes the same for contributors. So no retirement, no home that they live in, but any other investments in real estate. And then net worth of their business and farms. They did adjust this question once again. So in the past couple of years, it's been, no matter if it was 100 or more employees, they went to, you include your business, you include your farm. They have now returned to only 100 or more employees. So small businesses and small family farms do not have to be reported on the FAFSA once again. So a little flip flop there, but again, only 100 or more employees on the business or farm. Selecting the college and career school. So you'll have your schools listed out here. Again, they adjusted You can still put in your federal school code, but now it just comes up with a search bar and you can just start typing the college immediately. So I've seen a lot of students like to just start typing straight away. I use a lot of the school codes just because I have some of the Mississippi school codes committed to memory, but it makes searching for schools very easy and getting them added, each of them added. As Kirsten mentioned at the top, if you only list one college, you might get some follow-up information, some follow-up communication from FSA to, let you know, hey, you only listed one college. You may want to consider multiple for various options. So there could be some follow-up there. But yeah, once they have their colleges added, you'll see this is where they can type it in, and you'll get their school added in, and that's where they'll move to their parent contributor. So all they will need is an email. We would like to put a parent contributor email, but they can put their own student email. If they want to send this invitation to themselves, they can. The important thing is once you send the email that you have the invite code. So they're gonna, verify what email address you're sending it to, hit that send invite button, and then you will see the code. So every time I'm in an appointment, when I say, okay, parent or contributor, you're about to get an invitation code, they pull their phone out immediately and they go straight to their email. And I say, wait just a minute. I'm actually going to copy this code. So that's my favorite thing is that the code is included for you here and on the submission screen so that I can copy and paste it. One other important piece is that when you are in a student's account, you want to make sure you log out of the student's account before you move into the parent side, before you move into the contributors. So make sure you log out, make sure you know whose account that you're in. But yeah, so students going to get this message, you're almost done. They're going to know that they are completing their section, but they still need their parents' information. One last update here is the terms and conditions. You have to view the terms and conditions now. So you actually have to physically click view terms and conditions, read through those, and select and sign it. So once you've done that, you've viewed it, you've signed it, they're also going to give you a little update here. Okay, your form is not ready to submit just yet. Your section has finished, but once you hit submit, your section's finished, and we need you to have your parent contributor finish their section. So yeah, a lot of really good updates to the FAFSA. I love some of these quality of life updates that they've made, and I think the FAFSA is very smooth right now. I'm not running into a ton of issues and errors. I know a couple years back we had a rough run, but everything's starting to smooth out, and I think that the process right now is just about as easy as it ever has been. So. We're going to move into questions. So if anyone has any questions for us.
Yeah, Charlie, so we have one question in the chat that's asking if we have many students who need school codes for Delta Technical College. They always seem to have to Google that on to figure that one out. So Charlie, I know that in the student population that you work with, oftentimes you have that. How do you have that conversation as well as kind of navigating, guiding students when adding those colleges?
Yeah, so with Delta Technical College, they are actually, their official name is Midwest Technical Institute, and it's in Springfield, Illinois. So they have a campus in Horn Lake, Mississippi, and I think they also maybe have a Memphis, Tennessee campus. But students, they'll say Delta Tech, and I'll tell them immediately. I'll say, okay, first of all, they're not going to be listed on the FAFSA as Delta Tech. We're going to have to find them as Midwest Technical Institute. It's going to look weird, but if you want them, we'll put them on there. But then I also like to have the conversation of for-profit schools versus nonprofit. So not for profit. So with some schools like a Delta Tech or a for-profit school, sometimes their programs can be a little bit more expensive. These are, trade schools. When people say for-profit, it's kind of a synonym for a trade school. And with these trades, you can get a lot of them at community colleges. So that's what I'm never going to tell a student yes or no. Like you cannot put that college on your FAFSA. That's just not the way I operate. But I want to make sure that students are operating under educated and informed, making educated and informed decisions. So I will definitely, look up the price of a program at a for-profit institution and at the community college and show them the same program at both schools. And so as an example, I've looked up a program that might be 15 or $16,000 at a for-profit school that at a community college for the same program is $5,000 because the tuition at the community college is $5,000, right? Now, if they live on campus, that will adjust the price, but $15,000 versus $5,000, students usually choose for profit for a couple of reasons. Number one, um, they don't know the price. Number two, it's usually a shorter program. So they get done quickly and they're just seeing like, okay, I can get something fast. I can be done. I'm ready to be out of school. And number three, sometimes because those schools are aggressive and they talk to the students. And so the students get kind of hooked on, yeah, this sounds great. I've really talked to this person a lot. And they go visit and they like it, and then next thing they know, they get the bill and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know it was that expensive." So we want to make sure that they know that on the front end what the price looks like.
Thank you, Charlie. That was very helpful and great advice as we are counseling and talking and advising students. Okay, one of the questions that just came in is, can you explain more about the Earned Income Credit, the IEC, under the federal benefits received on the contributor side?
Yeah, so with earned income credit, this is so a lot of times people kind of get earned income credit and child tax credit mixed up. But earned income credit was created just a couple years ago. And there's a table that you can actually search. So that's the best way that as far as describing it or explaining it, I like to go straight to Google and just type in earned income credit and whatever year you're looking for. So if you're looking for, the tax year 2024, 2025, whichever one, but put earned income credit 2025, and you can find a table, and it'll tell you if a family is single versus a two-parent household, and how many dependents they have. So one, two, or three, and it will give you the amount of money that they have to be under to qualify for earned income credit. So this is just a credit for essentially low-income families that have dependents. They are allowed an extra credit on their taxes. And so that's where you're going to find that information though. So again, just Google earned income credit table for whichever year that you're searching for, and it's going to tell you the exact amounts that the family is going to need to have. If they have a copy of their tax forms, they can also look at line 27 because it's going to have that amount listed for them if they qualified for it.
And I followed your instructions, Charlie, and dropped in the chat for everyone what I Googled and found the IRS site that has those tables listed. And as a reminder for 2026-27 FAFSA, we're using 2024 tax year. All right, well, that's all the questions that we have, and that wraps us up with time as well. So we appreciate, Charlie, your expertise here and sharing this information. All of you that have joined us, we appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to familiarize yourselves with these changes. We are recording today's session, so we hope that you can go back and review that if you have questions. And we encourage you to join the third part of our three-part mini webinar series next Monday, and it is Ask a FAFSA Expert. So bring all of your questions, all of your challenges, and we are happy to answer them live. Try and stump us. It's a fun time. We love to talk technical, difficult scenarios. So, with that being said, we have a website for Get to College that has a lot of our FAFSA resources on it, as well as email if you have questions, training Get to College and gettocollege.org, FAFSA Federal Aid. So thank you for all that you do for your student and all that you spend the time in supporting answering those FAFSA questions. We hope that you found this helpful, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.